Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 43. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a Yeg Music production. Thank you all for tuning into the show this afternoon. I want to introduce you to all of our guests we have today. So starting with, let's start with Manifestiv. I want to kind of start with you guys. They are from Vallejo, California, and I'm still probably saying it wrong, but it's a new word. I'm learning it today. And our other guest is Aura from Edmonton, Alberta. Awesome. So I'll open it up here now to our quad box view. Now, I want to just kind of, how's everyone's day going so far? I just want to start off with a basic conversation. How's everyone doing?
Beautifully.
Beautifully? Is it sunny where you guys are in California right now?
It's dreary and emotionless in the sky.
Okay.
Pale shade of gray with no personality whatsoever. Lovely
That's
weather.
exactly what it's like actually in Edmonton right now. It's raining, it's gray, it's cold. So I'm glad we're on the same page today. That's fantastic.
Not even towards the beginning of summer at all, if you look outside.
Yeah. Our summer, typically like in Edmonton, we get it like kind of like June to July, and that's it. Then it's gone. It's evaporated for the whole rest of the year. So hopefully you guys get more sun than we do. That's fantastic. So I want to kind of jump in to talk about the history of both of you as musicians, because I know there's lots that I don't know and I want to learn, but as well for our audience. So Manifestiv, can you guys kind of take us through in about 2 to 3 minutes, if you can, your band and kind of how you came to be and what your inspiration is as a band?
Well, the world around us is definitely an inspiration. That's, the largest cliche of all, but it's kind of a reaction to everything that's happening. And both of us, like, we formed 5-6 years ago now, but we had been band nerds. I don't know if that's a term up in Canada or not.
Yep.
Without even having known each other. Eve was a pit section leader and playing vibraphones in high school. Be like, how could this ever be in a rock band? And I was, exhausting the heavy metal scene of Dallas, Texas at the time where I was growing up. And 10, 15 years later, I'm living out in the San Francisco Bay Area in Vallejo with Eve. And I'm like, hey, I wrote this record when I was in Dallas, and I don't know anybody out here, but I would love to start a band. I'm not a solo artist. Do you know anybody? She's like, well, I used to play vibraphone. Does that help? Yeah. Do you have one? No. So, in her engineering genius, she built one. From the ground up out of oak hardwood flooring and installed an electronic pickup system into it and plays it like a guitar, and I play the guitar like a keyboard. So we just try to take very unorthodox approaches to creating art. Eve's primarily a visual artist. This is no Zoom background. This is actually a 4-foot by 4-foot mandala painting she did by hand.
That's amazing.
It's trancy.
Yeah.
I love it. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. So I guess Eve, kind of what was your start into music? Were you kind of the same way with like your band, kind of a band geek, if you will, before everything kind of happened with music for you?
Yeah, I never actually tried to get into a rock band. This was something I did in high school, and then life happened, so I stopped playing vibraphone, mallet instruments in general. It wasn't until I met up with Taylor several years later that I had a renewed interest in music. And awesome. It's been a history ever since.
So is it the two of you guys in the band then typically, or do you have a few more players that join you as well?
It's just the two of us, but we occasionally have 2 other members that join us live. And so sometimes we'll have just me and Taylor with backing tracks, and then sometimes we'll have a bassist and a drummer join us on stage.
Just depending on. Yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense. Now, Aura, I kind of want to talk and chat about your music now. Can you kind of tell us, and this is kind of crazy because we live in the exact same city, but believe it or not, I have never heard of you, which is weird because Edmonton's big, but it's not that big. So can you tell me more so I can learn more about you, and hopefully I can come to one of your shows when everything's over and done within the world. But tell us more about your music.
Sure. So my name is Aura. It's my artist name. I started singing since I was a little girl. I think since I could talk, I was singing. I sang at school, I sang at home, and my parents really wanted me to take the academic path and, like, be a doctor or something serious. But I was always artsy. I love art, and I just followed that path. I went to university a couple years ago. I moved to Canada actually 10 years ago. And I went to school and I thought, you know what, let me just take the academic route, put music to the side. But music was calling my name. It's part of me. It's who I am. And I went back to it. I think I started getting more serious about my music and putting my art out there. I'll say 2018. That's when I had my first video. I did a video and I did a couple of shows. I was mainly going to universities, and some of the student groups from the universities were inviting me. And so I was like, okay, this is a thing. I haven't done this in many years, but I'm taking it more serious. So, ride the wave, start, singing. And then I wanted my music to be a bit unique because I really had to question myself, what's my sound, right? I grew up Britney, Backstreet, right? That's what it was. I loved the Spice Girls. Yeah. And then as I went into my teens, I liked a lot of the usual urban stuff, but I started liking a lot of neo soul and some of these really mature sounds like Erykah Badu, Jill Scott. And then I left that, and then I just loved Ariana Grande. So I was all over the place with my music, and I liked a little bit of rock too at one point.
That's awesome.
And so from 2018 until now, I've been discovering my sound, and I'll say my sound is an Afro fusion because I love a lot of Afro Cuban music, a lot of Latin music. And I like some African music as well. African music is very diverse. So I wanted to do a blend of everything that influenced me. My mom loved Dolly Parton and country music. My dad, my dad really loved some of the traditional African sounds. So I want to blend everything that I've loved into a sound. So I can't really put myself in a category. I'll say Afro fusion. Yeah. And I know probably you haven't seen me in Edmonton, like you said, but you'll find me mostly at a lot of cultural events. I've been to some city events. I've been to student events. So I've been slowly, getting a few shows in there. And then I've opened for a couple of popular musicians who've come here, like Wizkid and Burna Boy. Those are really popular African singers. So probably in a very cultural setting, you'll find my music there just because I'm trying to channel it to a blend of everything that I love.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Out of curiosity, do you know either, I'm gonna try two artists to see if you know them in Edmonton. Natalia Chai. Are you familiar with that name?
Yes, I love her. She's got a very neo soul jazz.
Okay, that's why I asked, because she's all up in the neo soul. So I was like, you've got to know her if you know neo soul. And are you familiar with Melafreak as well?
Yes, they're awesome. I've actually worked with them just on a bit of songwriting and stuff like that, but they're an amazing band.
That's fantastic. I love them. They're so much fun to watch. So I'm glad you know them, because I'm sure I'll see you around for sure then. Now, thank you guys for sharing. That really kind of helps me myself to know more about you guys as well. So thank you for that. So our topic for today is how to find your standout trait. So I think all of you kind of mentioned this in kind of your intros of how you feel that you kind of stand out in kind of that unique quality you have to your music. And I think this is a really important thing to have as an artist, to have that unique quality or that unique trait. So my first kind of question, and this is open to anybody who kind of wants to answer it. Why do you think it's important for an artist to have an outstanding quality that makes them unique? So rather than just being, your plain Joe that's super stereotypical, why do you think it's important to have that unique trait that really sets you apart from everyone else? So I just want to list some examples, just some basic ones to kind of get you in the same mindset as I'm thinking. So I'm thinking people like Kiss, for example, who had the makeup costume that was super unique. There's people like, I guess Ariana Grande, she's got the big ponytail. We've got people like just that's the kind of traits I'm looking for. Something like Elton John, those big glasses. There's kind of that unique trait. So I kind of want to know from you guys, why do you think that's important to have as an artist? Or do you kind of want to start it off on your opinions of what you think?
I think it's something that people identify.
Oh no.
When you're out there. So you don't want anyone comparing you to someone else. So if you
Mhm.
have that thing about you, people will know, like whether it's the big hair, like Diana Ross, or like the band Kiss, they had their, black and white, and their makeup was always like, you wouldn't find anyone else with that. Michael Jackson with his pants were just his ankles with the white socks and stuff. I think it's so that wherever you go, like even after your time is done, like that statement or whatever that thing is about you, it lives with your music through time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how about for you guys, Manifestiv? You guys have a really creative stage look. I think when I was looking at your photos, I was like, holy crap, this is so cool. So why do you think it's important to have that kind of stage look that really sets you apart from different artists? Why do you think it is important to you guys?
It's important because it gives an anchor for people to relate to. And it's interesting that the topic is about things that set us apart, because I feel if you look deep enough, everyone has something that sets them apart. Yeah. And if you relate to that person, you tend to notice it more. And in a way, there is really no such thing as a normal person. Normal people are actually people we don't know yet.
They're aliens, basically.
And everybody has that standout trait, and it really just comes to, courage from the inside and nurturing from the outside to bring it out. Like, hey, that's uniquely you. Bring it out. Identify yourself in the sea of 8 billion people, like however many percentage of which are artists. Now, even more so, since everybody's been stuck at home for 2 months with nothing but, an Adobe Creative Suite. I could make music and movies too. So now there's so much more art happening, which is a great thing, but you've got to pluck what makes you out and hold it up like a torch, like it's like a home, so
yeah, I totally agree with that. Now I guess I want to kind of start with you guys, Manifestiv, for this next question. When you guys first started out your music, did you find you tried out different versions of your style or your stage energy? Something that sticked what was the process kind of like? Did you go through different changes, or were you always kind of, nope, this is us, we've always been this way with our look and our traits?
I think the look has evolved over time, mostly due to necessity. I think we had like a goal in mind that we're still kind of inching towards, but we've gotten a lot of restrictions. A lot of them were budgetary, a lot of them were time. But it's been a fun journey, because as we've created our look and evolved that look, we've also found aspects of ourselves that we felt that could be better representative towards a certain selection of clothing or costuming. Like, for example, I had just recently started playing shows with big animal like antlers, and it shapes the stage presence to where we can then tell a story with how we look. And that's more the direction that we're trying to go. We want to tell a story with our music, not just play music, but have kind of an environment form around it, around our stage presence, around the performance.
Yeah, and even looking through your guys' social media, I totally can get that already just off the bat. Not even seeing you play live yet, I can totally see that. So that's really awesome to hear. Now, Aura, how about yourself? Did you find, I know you said you were kind of like when you were going through university and then starting your music, did you find it was hard to kind of get that exact kind of trait that you really want to bring out and flourish, or was it easier for you? Kind of, what was your process like?
I think it was actually tough, and I'll probably say now, as I am a bit more mature, I'm actually now kind of seeing what my unique trait will be. But I mean, going to university and being in school, it's really tough because you're at that time where, the world can swallow you up. Like, you want to be like your celebrities, or you want to be like the coolest person at university or at school, So your identity is shifting. Like, you want to be yourself, and then maybe if yourself doesn't really fit in with the crowd, and then, you're trying to be as confident and secure, but you have those insecurities. You're, coming from being a young teenager to a young woman, and So I think it took me quite a while to figure out and come to a place where I was really comfortable with my look, with how I wanted to be identified, with what was unique about me. So I think now as I'm, you know, more mature, I think it's easier for me to define, you know, my unique trait.
Absolutely. And I think there's nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with
It's
evolving.
something that you build upon. It's a lot of trial and error. And I think touching
Yeah.
on what you were just saying, that beginning stage, especially like coming.
Oops.
She's back.
Oh, I'm
Hey.
sorry. I'm sorry. I guess I just like wasn't cool enough for the conversation, so I just got kicked out of my own conversation. Sorry.
YouTube has a cool detector, but algorithm is now like, okay, not enough diverse influences, off the call.
Sorry, I get cut off right before you're about to start talking paragraph. Can you kind of read what you were just saying there? I'm so sorry.
No, totally cool. That in the journey towards oneself, there's a lot of trial and error. And you know, you're a sum of your influences, and those kind of serve as a placeholder until you can really define your own style or individuality. And some things don't work. Like I remember our first time playing in Hollywood. It was like, yay, we're in the Viper Room, Sunset Strip. I had a wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, no.
The show, like, with half my crazy 24th century breathing apparatus suit and then like plaid pants because they were stuck in the boots or something. So a lot of trial and error, and just be willing to let stuff roll off your back if it doesn't work, because not everything's going to work until you find who you are.
Well, that's the thing about stage wear. It's not just how it looks, but it's also how it holds up on stage. And we found that like a lot of trial and error what works when you're moving around and things are like falling off your head. Like,
you got to be this more.
Yeah, you got to keep rolling, like we say. Like you just have to be natural about it and be like, yep, that was supposed to happen, totally.
Yeah,
it's not weird to make it.
Exactly. So that kind of ties into my question. If you guys have ever seen other artists on stage and you've seen them perform and they have their stage energy or their stage outfits, who in your opinion, I just want to know who you think has a standout quality for their stage persona. Who are some of your favorites that you really admire for just specifically for their stage persona and who they are and what their special trait is?
Rammstein, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Dave Gahan specifically from Depeche Mode, because the entire catalog is crooning and sexy and blah blah, and you see him and he's just doing backflips and like crazy on stage. Eve's had the opportunity to see him. I haven't seen him live yet, but just footage. It's just like, wow, that is not the calm, soothing, candlelit demeanor that your song suggests. You are out there, Dave, and a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. How about yourself, Farah? Who are some of your favorites you like to watch or see videos of?
I love Beyonce, so whoop whoop.
Yeah, she's cool.
I mean, her stage presence is phenomenal, and she just works super hard. And so that's probably like stage-wise, that's like my ultimate favorite. I like Ariana too. She's good. Madonna, like she just like wows me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? But yeah, and let me think if there's anyone else. Billie Eilish, I really like stage. Her music's really cool. I don't have anyone else. I think those are, and I like some of the African artists as well. Burna Boy, most amazing concert I've been to. The energy was just like crazy. So he was really, really good. Wizkid too. And yeah, I think out of the African artists, those guys as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, do you think, my next kind of question is, do you think artists on stage do you think they should almost have a separate identity than themselves off of stage? So I know Paragraph was kind of saying, like with Depeche Mode, like you listen to this music and it's so, soothing and everything, but then when you see them on stage, it's like a completely different person. So I'm kind of curious, like, for example, let's say we had Beyonce and, on stage, she's this fierce lady. And then off stage, if she was this calm, soothing lady, do you think that makes sense? Do you think that should be what artists strive to do? Or do you think you should be collectively always kind of the same person? I know it's kind of like a loaded question, but I'm curious to know your thoughts.
I don't think. Go ahead.
I think you should be. Oh, did I cut you off? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's the internet.
I was gonna say I wouldn't say a different person. I would say it's just another aspect of who they already are. So it's them, but another them that is probably more enhanced when they express their art. It's just another expression of who they already are. Yeah, I find I'm more quiet when you meet me, but I like when I dress up and I'm ready to go, I'm this different person, and people are like, wait, like we work together. You're not like that at work. But I just feel like it's all an extension of who I am. I think we've wanted to always, like what Paragraph was saying, like you, like when you're growing up, you're just in this, it's trial and error, but those are all aspects of yourself until you find what you're comfortable with. So I think it's not strange that she would be, probably very quiet and an introvert, and then on stage, this fierce woman, dancing. So I just think it's an extension of who you are that you bring out when you express your art.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eve, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I feel like different roles in life require different aspects of us to function differently. So, for example, a person who normally acts a certain way around their friends wouldn't normally act a certain way around people at work.
Yeah.
Parents don't act the same way around their children, vice versa. And so it's really no different on stage. If you're an artist and you're genuinely shy, I feel the stage actually gives you permission to explore the boundaries of what you wouldn't normally explore around your peers or at work or at home. It kind of allows you to play with your own personal reality.
Which is, I think, the most fun part, to be honest, if it's me, because I know I can be introverted to an extent, but it's so true when you're on that stage. Sometimes it's just like, it's your time. It doesn't matter. Now I have a question about social media and kind of how this affects our standout qualities. Now, do you think social media helps or harms when you're building a unique standout trait or a persona? Do you think it is effective to help? Because I know social media for most people is a fairly new thing. So Manifestiv, I'm kind of curious to start off with you guys. What do you think with social media? Has it helped your kind of image, or do you think it's had really no effect?
I mean, it's kind of both positive and negative. It's just like with anything in life, it's what you take from it. Because the positivity could be like, look, what we're doing is resonating. Like with people, if we start to see like things that look kind of like what we're doing, or that we're like already kind of doing that. Oh no, our idea is like not that original. Or the other thing, oh wow, somebody else tapped into the exact same vibration that we are.
Yeah.
So it really all has to do with your perspective and just outlook and attitude, as if where the social media really kind of shrinks the world, right? Here we are,
Exactly.
across the streets talking like we're in the same room, and you'll see what you think is this like private, your own idea, like, and it's as if somebody else, like, I don't want to use the term, but ripped it off. And you're like, what? Oh, that's because they're tapped in something else. Not like, oh, they were following us and wanted to do something exactly the same. No, there's wavelengths, I think, that can be tapped into. And I've experienced this not only like with how things look on social media, but even way, way before. Some of my first songwriting as a teenager, I'd write a song. 4 months later, a Nine Inch Nails song would use the same note progression. I'd be like, no, how did everybody's gonna, what the?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you just release it and be like, no, that's cool. We were tapped into the same thing. So I think it's good.
I like that approach. Yeah. Wavelengths. I like that. That's totally, I love that. Cause I think, it's a lot of the comparison game of, oh, they're copying me or they're doing the same thing as me. But I love that you mentioned that. That's such a good way to look at it. Totally. Now, Aura, I want to know with social media, how it's kind of affected has it had any effect, or do you think you've been okay with with going through it?
I think it's helped spread my music, but I've also had to be very careful not to be, swallowed into, trying to keep up with social media life and, trying to have a good balance as an artist, because it's really healthy for the mind and even for creativity. I mean, since all this started, I haven't created. Like, I just started creating probably a month ago. But
Mhm.
before that, I was not creating. But I realized that I was tapping into the wrong, social media accounts. I was feeding into the wrong things.
Mhm.
And you're receiving all this information. What are you doing with it, right? It can make you feel down. So I think social media is great for artists. It's really, right now, it's like our biggest platform, right? No one is doing big shows or tours. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing for us to connect right now. But I think as an artist and as a person in general, you just have to be careful what you tap into, what you subscribe to. And as an artist, it's also like our portfolio, like how you have your LinkedIn, like
Mhm.
social media is our LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
So we
Right.
kind of build our brand and our identity there. So I think it's just how you manage with social media. But for me, it's been very helpful. I've just had to be very careful, what I ascribe to, because with social media, it's everyone's personal feelings, opinions, you know what I mean? So you have to really stay, like, Manifest was saying, in that right frequency. Those people who you relate to, you need to kind of, stick with those, whatever you resonate with, stick in that, in that direction, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it, it's hard as artists too, because most artists are empaths, and
Yeah.
this state of the world the past couple months has really kind of boiled a lot of emotions across the world of people being like, oh, well, the situation I wasn't prepared for, my plans 2020, you've seen those memes going around, just
Yeah.
nobody has a grip on life anymore. So everybody's like hurting and just resorting to that. And right when all this started, just all this pain at the same time, like pain, pain, pain. Hey, perfect time to be creating. Pain, pain. And all of us artists are sitting there with a blank slate, like, how can we create when like everyone we know is like not knowing how to deal with this like
Mhm.
right now, and then everybody's being told, okay, now create, like way to incite a universal wide writer's block. Every artist I've talked to has been like, oh man, what album did you write in March? None. I was
Yep.
scared
Just too
endlessly.
busy panicking.
Yep.
Too busy panicking.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, with the bandwidth, with the wavelength, with you tap into,
Yeah.
if you're writing a song or hearing a song come to you and then putting it down, there's, I think it's like radio. There's like bandwidth, and there's, we call them space babies if we like jam something cool in the jam room and then leave it on a voice memo and then that's it. It doesn't become a song. It's because you're interpreting spirits as an artist. So when everybody was being told to create, it was like a traffic jam. It's like the server got clogged. I mean, how are you
Mhm.
gonna write when 4 billion artists are like, right now, because if you're not productive during a pandemic, what are you? It's like, no.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so it's as an empathic artist at the beginning, and all right, I'm sure you can side with us on this. It was really difficult to like start writing
Yeah.
when the world's collapsing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. I think you pinned that so perfectly, because that's exactly how I felt. I know I talked to so many other musicians and we're like, I have nothing. I have no juices to give. I feel like I'm just kind of juiced out right now.
Yeah. All my juice is like, will there be a summer?
Yeah. Will there be life? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
also a lot of musicians that put up so much time and money and effort into touring this summer, and they lost.
Yes.
We
Yes.
Personally know a few bands that lost so much money and time
Yeah.
on a tour.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been talking with a few artists all around the world. So I've had a few people tell me that, their life is touring. That's their full-time gig, and they're just like, that's it. And they're like, now I spend time with my wife and I'm growing a vegetable garden. I'm like, that's awesome, but also that sucks. So it's a very hard line. For sure. So my next question, I guess, let me see here how much time we've got. Yeah, this will be my last question. So what advice would you all give to a new artist who's trying to figure out how they can kind of set themselves apart and stand out in a crowd full of people who can be very similar and let's use the terms, on that same wavelength as them? So what would you kind of prescribe to them to kind of help them to stand out as artists? Or did you want to start it off with any advice you could give?
I would say build up your confidence within yourself. The world is going to try and tear down every little bit of who you are. But when you stand on that stage and when you express, just let it be something that's true to you. I know people have turned down opportunities, even financially, just because someone wanted them to express in a certain way and they just didn't stand for that. So I will say, build up your self-confidence, because, criticism will come, a lot of things will come, but make sure when you're standing on that stage to express yourself, you are speaking your truth and you are really tapping into, something that's authentically you. And as Manifest was saying, like, most musicians are empaths, and we really, like, I love the way you describe it, because when someone asks me, I say, I believe musicians are messengers. Like, some of these things we're saying are not our own, we're just vessels bringing that forth. So make sure that you are really bringing forth the messages that you're receiving, and no one is kind of altering the message or the image that they see you portraying out there, right? Be true to yourself, even if being true to yourself is not like mainstream, it's not Beyonce, it's not Rihanna, but it's you. And as an artist, if you try and suppress your expression, every artist knows that it'll catch up to you and you'll have to express yourself in some way, right? It's part of your healing, part of your journey. So stay true to you. That's what I'll say.
I love that. Thank you. And Manifestiv, can you guys kind of give some collective advice between the two of you of what you kind of think for staying true to who you are and standing out?
I think Aura stated it very perfectly about being true to yourself, because the world's ready to criticize you regardless of what path you take. And it's actually a very profound thing to say, because as a starting artist, you want to please everybody. You want to not get that criticism so early on in the career. But this is what I would say. I would say that there is no one artist that exists that everybody in the world likes. So do what it is that you love and stick to that.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's really it. Because no one is going to 100% understand you anyway. And the reason why I say this is because no one can get into your mind and literally know exactly everything you're trying to say, everything you're trying to do. So because there's that dissonance between your mind and theirs that will always exist, never take it personally. Keep going.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. Just stick to yourself, and that's hard with a lot of noise coming in. That's where social media can get dangerous, is if you're a fresh open palette and the day begins, you're an artist, okay, I'm still tired, so I'm just going to wake up and fill that void with noise, and now I can't hear myself and I can't hear what I actually need and I'm being called to do. So yeah, just communication with yourself, take it a step further, just have a good dialogue and know what it is that you want. And another thing that's kind of difficult to do, especially during these times, was like showing off work too early, like what Aura was saying. I mean, maybe not let people into the process too early, because then they'll be like,
it'll influence the work.
Yeah, they'll be like, maybe you should.
It won't be yours anymore. It'll be a collaboration unintentionally.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like, if you want the message to be pure, it has to be purely yours. So if you release the work too early and people influence it, then it's no longer your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for your great advice. I know that's even helpful to someone like me, so thank you for sharing. That was our last question for the day. We are out of time, unfortunately, but we are so lucky to have had you all on. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button to show your support. We post 2 shows a day, so there's lots of content to watch Monday to Friday. So if you're bored, I have all the content for you. If you want to hear this conversation through podcast format, just search up Vienna Whyte podcast and you will find this conversation there. Now, before we head out, could I get you all to say your band name or your stage name and where our audience here can find you guys on social media? So Manifestiv, can you guys start it off?
Yes, we are Manifestiv, and I'm Paragraph.
I'm Eve.
And you could find us anywhere with the word Manifestiv, MANIFESTIV. That's our tag on Facebook, Twitter.
We're easy to find online.
Thank you. We are easy to
Yeah.
find.
Thank you guys. And Aura, can you tell where our audience can find you?
So my name is Aura, and my artist name is Aura as the human aura, not O-R-A. Most people mistake that. You can find me on Instagram as Aura Arico. On Facebook, my page is Sounds of Aura. On YouTube, it's Official Aura. So that's all my social media handles. Connect with me and check out my music.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. It was great to meet you all. I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys too.
Bye. Thank you.